Hi there guys! Welcome to the animation team of Finishing Touches. Happy to have everyone here. I'm just making a video here to give us all an equal playing field in our animation. That way when it comes time to start animating, which is going to be next week, we are all on the same page because I don't want anyone behind or feeling like they're, left behind or anything. So I'm just going to make this that's going to go over some super Maya basics and then move into some more animation things that deal with preferences, so animation type preferences. You may see some animators animating a different way than how I'm going to show it here, but we're all going to stick to this way. That way, if we encounter any problems, we know how to fix them. Because when it comes time to render and hand things off to our texturing team, we don't want them to have to fix our mistakes. So let's make this easier on everyone on the whole team by following the same steps here. So bear with me. If you already know how to do all this super basic Maya stuff, just bear with me until I move into some more setting things, or maybe you just can skip this first part where I'm just moving a cube. So do as you please, but please do take something from this video at least. Alright, so starting off here in Maya, for those of you who haven't touched Maya in forever, let's go ahead and start off with just some super basics. Option left click rotates, option middle click moves around, option right click zooms in. Ta-da! You can navigate Maya. Now if you've created an object, I'm in my polygons menu up here and created a cube by clicking the little cube there. If I hit W, I can move the cube. E lets me rotate the cube. All sorts of different ways there. R lets me scale. And yeah, that's important stuff. Now for our cube, you can see what's happening in our channel box over here. We can see that it's been translated 0.037 on the x-axis and rotated y negative 0.733. Now if you want to edit this stuff by hand up here, you can click on whatever option you'd like and middle drag. That lets you move things here. You can change it, or you can edit the numbers. The channel box is going to be super helpful when we get into our rig, because there's certain controls that are going to have things that aren't visible in the viewport, but you can see them on the channel box over here. So for example, our character's mouth has settings that allow you to rotate the upper lip and the lower lip and move things around that don't show up over here, like dilate the pupils. So pay attention to your channel box when you're messing with the rig, that way you find hidden features, I suppose. Surprise! Another feature on here is going to be our attribute editor. We're not going to need this a whole lot when we're animating. This is mostly going to be used for our texture artists, but just so you know it's there in case you need to check stuff out. So yeah, that's some of our super basics as far as Maya goes. Next I like to pull up the outliner, because I feel like that's a pretty useful thing working in Maya. So if you go to Windows, Outliner, you're going to pull up the outliner, and it's going to list everything that you have in your scene. So let's see, I create another sphere, pops up in the outliner. So the outliner is going to show you what you're working with. Now our scenes are going to be a lot more complicated than just a cube and a sphere, because we're going to have a referenced environment, referenced rig, we're going to have everything going on in this scene. So there's going to be a lot more going on in this outliner, but it's going to let you keep track of your cameras. So if I create a camera, I create camera, then it shows me where my camera is, and I can move that around, adjust that. Our cameras, the files you're going to be getting for the shots already have the camera set where it needs to be, but if your shot ends up being a little bit more dramatic than what we've planned for, you may need to adjust the camera yourself. Quick, good way to do that, I'm going to show you. If you go to Panels, look through Selected while your camera is selected, you can actually aim your camera at what you want in your scene and adjust it as you feel necessary. The cameras you'll be getting, probably try not to mess with them too much. Keep the angles the same, but maybe your character breaks out of the camera view here. You can just zoom out a little bit. Now to see what it's going to look like when it's trimmed, because right now there's going to be some edges that are going to get cut off because my window view changes sizes. You can click this circle right here that's inside of a box. That's going to frame up your shot so you know exactly what's going to be in shot and what's going to be outside of the shot. Alright, So that was a little bit of a camera tangent, but useful nonetheless. Let's start getting set up to animate by going through some of our settings here. So I would like to show you all, let's see, we need our plugin manager, Windows, settings and preferences, plugin manager. This is going to show you all of your plugins. Some of you may have extra plugins. One example, like Arnold, maybe you want to render something really fast just to see how it's going to turn out in Arnold. I don't know if that'll be 100% necessary. Mostly we're going to be doing play blasts, but just in case, make sure that your Maya 2 or M2A bundle is plugged in. Oh, okay. And yeah, so you can adjust what plugins are turned on. So if there's something that's usually working that isn't working this time, check in your plugin manager. Another important thing that we're going to go through is our settings, our preferences. So in our preferences, we're going to be up in here. This is important. In your settings, we are working in feet. Now, Maya automatically sets itself to centimeters. So what we need you to do, set it to feet. Ta-da! Now, you'll notice your grid's gotten a lot bigger, and things will match up in the scene. Like our characters, we've got one that's 7 feet and one that's 2 feet. That's going to pose an interesting animation challenge, but we can handle it. So with feet, that's just going to keep track of your scene and put everything in the right distance, and it also makes lighting easier, because if they're lighting a scene and one's set in centimeters and the other one's set in feet, the lighting's going to change based on what it's doing. So we need to all have our scenes match up. I don't know if I explained that properly, but I can explain better if you have questions. Just put it in feet. All right, now another important thing is when you're animating, we do not want to be animating. Your setting probably says spline right up in here. Under tangents, default in tangent, it probably says spline. Now when you're animating in spline, you are animating, it's going to automatically give a curve to your animation. So it's very difficult. Your animation's going to slide around. Things are going to look weird. It's better to do the splining later after you've got your keys and your breakdown set up yourself. That's something we do last. We don't want to be splining from the beginning. So make sure default in tangents is set to linear. Same for default and out tangents. You want both of those set to linear. All right. With that, that's about all we need as far as setting goes. So let's go ahead, and I'm going to provide you all a set of scripts that you may already have if you've taken Brad's rigging class. I think he might also give them out in the Intro to 3D, but I'm not sure. But it's what's going to give us this shelf. That's the Fullerton shelf here. A lot of this is used for rigging, but a few of them are really helpful for animating as well. So like our pose to shelf here, that's some important stuff. So let's go ahead and add that into our shelf up there. Here we're going to be doing some interesting stuff here. Let me see if I can find my shelf. I realize I probably should have done this before I started recording, but I'm sure it's here. It's probably here. Let me see. Oh dear. Here we go. So I'm going to give you this folder here that's going to have the icons, the scripts, and the shelf itself. The icons are what's going to show up here, just so you have pictures, because it's pretty. The scripts are what's going to actually control it, so that's going to be, what runs it. And the shelf is just this tab up here itself. So I'm going to go ahead and provide this to you. I think I'm going to probably drop it in the Google Drive, so I will, when I post the video, I'll give you a link. But let's go ahead and put these where they need to go. So, just on your computer, in Finder, or Windows, I'm not really sure how to handle this, but I'm sure you can Google it. I don't have a PC and I haven't been on one since 2009, so I don't know what they do anymore. But if you're on a Mac, we can hit Go. If you click Go, hold down Option, Library is going to pop up right here. Click that. You are now in your library. And we can go ahead and go down to Preferences. Should be down here. Preferences, Autodesk, Maya, whatever year you have of Maya, hopefully 2016, but I'm not going to judge. Probably best to get 2016 though, it's free, just do it. All right. So under scripts, so I'm looking at my notes here, just making sure I'm telling you right because I don't want to give you the wrong instructions. You're going to want to copy and paste your scripts in here. Make sure that you copy and paste. If you drag, it's just going to put a link to it on your computer, and it's not going to work when you go elsewhere. It's very annoying, very confusing. So just make sure you copy, paste, don't click and drag. Your scripts right into there. And I believe, wait a minute. Oh yeah, wait. Preferences. Oh, okay, here we are. Sorry. Scratch what I just said. You're under 2016. Go under Preferences, under Scripts, copy and paste your scripts. That's where they go. There they are because I've already copied and pasted them. And then under Icons, copy and paste your icons. And under Shelves, copy and paste your shelf. All right, pretty straightforward. And then you should have everything. You're going to need to close Maya and open it again in order for the shelf to show up. So, you know, don't worry about that. Just close Maya, open it again. Your shelf should be there. If not, let me know. All right. So, now that we've got that all going, you should be set to start doing some animating. I'm going to show you what my favorite button does. First of all, this brings up the outliner, deletes the history. You might need that, might not. But here's what's going to happen. If I move this, or don't need to move it, if I select this, but not the cube, and I hit Post to Shelf, Selection to Shelf, I'm going to label it first. So let's say sphere. Oh, I didn't spell sphere right. Oh, no. All right, Selection to Shelf. If I do this, click Sphere, it's going to automatically select my sphere. Now, on a rig with a bajillion controls, this is going to be super helpful because maybe you just want to select the face controls, but you don't want to have to individually select them each time. Just label it, face controls, selection to shelf. Very helpful. You can also use the pose to shelf if there's a pose that you want to automatically be able to return to. You can add that to your shelf. Super helpful button there. Excellent. 10 out of 10. Would recommend. Use it. All right. So with that, now we're going to be getting into a few more animation-y things. I'm going to go ahead and close. Actually, I'm just going to delete this guy. Delete this guy. And then I'm going to show you, this is the point where we're going to start setting this up for our animation. Right now, I'm going to start showing you what you need to do. This is the procedure you need to follow when animating. That way we don't have those weird mess-ups when we come to the end. All right, so first off, I want to show you all how to set your project. Now, this is something that I didn't know existed for the longest time, even after working in Maya. I don't know how, but I learned about it, and it is very, very helpful. And this is how we're going to be working on the project. Now, on the Google Drive, there's going to be a project folder. And a project folder is something that Maya uses in order to keep track of everything. And it has your assets, it has your rigs, it has everything you need to finish this animation in that project folder. So we are going to use that we're going to set a project folder in Maya. So under File, when you've got your Maya scene open, Set Project, and then find your project folder where you have it, wherever you have it saved. I've got it saved on my hard drive. So Finishing Touches, Project Folder, and you can double click it or just click it, and then Set. So now we are set in that project. So watch when I do this. File, Open Scene, I have all of my shots are ready to be opened. So I can open whichever shot I've been assigned to work on, and it's ready to go. So that is what we're working with. So let's go ahead and start checking out our rig. Now, when you're working on a rig, we don't want you to animate directly on the rig file itself, because then when it comes time to texture, they have to apply the textures to each shot. And if we go back and we change the rig later, which may happen, we can update your animation file automatically. So under File, Create Reference, go ahead and find your rig file. I don't know if I have my rig saved in this project folder because this is an older version than you will have, so I gotta find my rig somewhere. I think it's on my desktop. Let me see. Oh, this is a mess. Nobody look. No. Where did I put it? Where did I put it? Come on, buddy. Why am I not finding it? Alright, bear with me. Bear with me here. I swear it's on here. Let's see. Is it not in here? Assets. Oh, here we go. Duh. Okay, in your project folder, it is saved under Assets, Rigs, and right now I just have Vari, so I'm going to go ahead and open up Vari. Oh, wait. No. Create reference. Whoops, it's a zip file, so I can't create it. Hang on, I'm going to unzip that. Where are you? Assets. Rigs. Okay, now it has been unzipped. So I can File, Create Reference, Finishing Touches, Vari, Doll, Rig, Reference. That's fine, it always says there's errors. Okay, here's Vari in your scene. I think this might not be the latest version of Vari, but it's going to work for my demo purposes. Here's our rig of Vari. We have her referenced in our scene. Extra key, please reference. If I find out you're not referencing, 10 push-ups. Alright, so with Vari in our scene, we can control her just how we use the W, E, and R keys. You can control her, do what you please with this specific rig. You know, right now our hands are in IK. But it's probably best to work in FK. I'm going to show you just a few things about this rig in particular. So on our global control here, our all anim, we're not going to animate on the all anim. When you're animating, do not move the all anim. Leave it where it is, because that's going to let us set up our scene later if we need to. It can kind of screw stuff up. So the all anim is there, selects everything. What we're going to use with the all anim, your global scale should already be locked. Mine is at 1. Yours is going to be locked at something a little bit larger because this was created at the wrong scale. We didn't know about scale back then. It's okay. We got it all figured out. You guys won't have to deal with it. But for our leg and arm settings, we want these to be set to FK originally. It's best to always animate in FK. IK, we save IK for any time that your character is leaning on something or they're moving from their hands. So if their hand needs to stay in one spot as you're moving their body. So let's say their hand is pressed down on a desk. Then you can set it to IK, and that way their hand won't move as their body moves. So for FK, we have these different rotational areas here. Controls the whole arm, and this allows you to be posable here. And one note about this rig, the shoulders are kind of funny. So when you rotate it, notice how her shoulder caves in. Easy fix. This is the shoulder control. Just pull it out. Super easy. Now you're seeing this line down here. That's actually the IK arm that is not being moved right now. So you can actually adjust it. Some rigs you can adjust it where you can set the arm in halfway in between the IK and the FK. It's interesting. We'll work on that later. I don't know if we're going to be needing that in our animation in particular. But a few other things to note. As I mentioned earlier, there are some pieces on the face that have controls over here in the channel box. So for example, the mouth up down, adjust, lip roll. So these sorts of controls are held in the channel box, and you can't control them with any controls on the face in particular. So I think that should cover specifics of this rig. Really, you just want to play around with it. There's a lot of controls on this. Brian did an absolutely fantastic job rigging this. So it's a lot of fun to mess with, and I'm really excited to animate with it. But let's not have me just geek out about the rig. Let's actually cover a few more things that are important to animating here. When you're animating, few animation basics. Some of you probably know this, but just going over this. Move your character, and then set your key. To set a key, down here on the timeline, we can see what's happening throughout our animation. So I'm on first frame, I'm going to set a key. Ta-da! Setting a key. That's that. Now, let's say I move down the timeline about 12 frames, and I do this. Now I have auto key turned on. You can turn on auto key under Windows, Settings and Preferences, Preferences, Animation. Where's auto key? Auto key. There we go. And you can just do that to turn on auto key. Some people don't like working with auto key. I do, because sometimes I forget to hit the key. So auto key is pretty helpful, but it's only going to create a key on the controls you've selected. So so this is what my arm is doing. Don't actually do this in your animation. That looks awful. But I'm doing an example. So with your auto keys turned on, I've created a key, but it's only on this control. Only the one I've selected. So if I were to create a key down the line on 24, where I move the hip anim, and I key that, let's see, oh wait, I'm going to go back to the first one, and I'm going to key that to 0 just so I can see it move. Now watch as the arm moves independently of what the hip is doing. They don't affect each other. Now this is when that pose or selection to shelf button is going to come in handy. A lot of times I will create a select all, where I will select all of the body controls and I will put that to my shelf. That way I can just click body controls, it will select all of the body controls, and I can hit S to key. That way, once I have a pose exactly how I like it, I can key it, and then if I make a change down the line, that's not affecting that already perfect pose or whatever. So you'll find this is going to be a bit of trial and error for you. I can't tell you everything that you're going to encounter, but that's kind of the best way to go about it. So now while you're animating, basically I assume everyone has taken Intro to 2D. I believe so. I think we asked everybody. But so you're probably wondering how you're going to translate your 2D animation principles to 3D animation. So a lot of these principles are pretty easy to apply, but you know, it's still, there's some tools that can help you make it even easier. One tool that I think is super helpful is the motion trail. So the motion trail, let's say I'm gonna go ahead and, all right, before I get into the motion trail, sorry, let's go ahead and I'm gonna show you, just right click here, you can delete a key. Ta-da, delete key on this key, delete, and then I can just zero this back out. Oh, gotta select it first. Right. Alright, so that's that. If you want to edit your character, let's say so I have her moving down here. Let's say I want to give her a full arc of, let's do arms. Let's do arms because arms are easier to read there. Actually no, let's do the hips because the hips are useful. So I'm going to change this key for the hips there. I'm going to move it over here. So let's say I want to have her move in an arc from, set my original key, so S, there. So I want to have her move, right now she's moving in a straight line. See how her hips just move straight diagonally down? I want her to arc because animation is all about arcs, and this is going to be important for you to animate. So I want to create, oh wait, switch this to animation. That's going to make a difference. Under visualize, sorry they moved it, create editable motion trail. Now you can see in our window here, you can see that there is a motion trail here. This is showing exactly where that center point of that anim is moving. So you can move, see how it moves all the way down and it's highlighting where it's going? So right now it's there. That's about where I want it to be arced. So I want my motion trail to look more like this rather than a straight line. So I can actually take this point on the motion trail, pull it up, and my motion trail begins to arc. So this is fantastic for getting those nice smooth arcs, especially when your hand's moving. I like to use this on the feet. It's key. This is probably one of the best tools there is as far as visualizing in the viewport how your animation is moving. So now, if I go back and zoom out a little bit, you can watch your hips move up and down. There you go. So now we actually have an arc happening, which is super key. It's one of the animation principles. Very important. Watch your arcs. Now, when you're working, sometimes the view that we've provided for your shots isn't going to be ideal for animating something you're working on. Like right now, let's say the shot looks like this. But you need to move your arms, but you can't see her lower arms. Like maybe her arms need to be in the shot, but this is what your camera looks like. Let's see. Create camera, panels, go through the selected. I'm going to pose this where we want our camera. So, forgive me. Let's say this is our shot. And you want to pose our arms. You can go under panels, tear off a copy, and look, now I have a mini version. So if I go through panels, perspective, and I go back into my perspective camera, that's the one I'm working in here, I can move around the scene without adjusting the camera that I was working in. Because we don't want to move around the shot cameras, otherwise we're going to mess up our angles, and we've already got those beautifully planned. It took a lot of time. Please don't mess those up. So go under panels, perspective, and you can use your perspective camera to do whatever tweaks you need to have happen in the scene, and you can watch it happening in the other copy that you have torn off of your window. Very useful because now I can see what's happening. Now let's say you've got an animation and it's doing what you want, but you can't fully tell if it's moving at the right speed. Because this viewport, you can see how fast it's playing right down here. I'm going to show you how to put that in actually. Windows, settings and preferences. Oh wait, no, under display, sorry. Display, UI elements. Maybe not, heads up display. Oh, heads up display, frame rate. That's going to show you how many frames per second your animation is moving, so watch me play this. That is playing super slow, 0.1 frames per second. That's not going to be accurate for what's happening. So we want to see how fast this is actually moving. So right down here in our time slider, you can right click on your, actually let's make sure we're on the right camera. Camera 2. Wait, nope. Camera 1, there we go. Okay, camera 1. Make sure you're in your camera of the shot. Click play blast. And it's going to show you what's happening in your shot at the correct length. I have way too many frames in this shot, so it's taking forever. But now if we play it, we can see how actually fast our shot is moving in real time and what it's going to look like, what speed it's going to be when it's fully rendered and in our film. So it helps you get a more accurate representation of what your animation's doing. It helps a lot, and play blasts are going to be what we turn in when we want to check your keys or your breakdowns. It's basically going to be the files that we're going to be using to communicate with and show our work. So play blasts, super helpful. Another thing I noticed, since your time slider is really long, if you feel you need to add to the time length that we've given you, which may happen, or maybe you need to lessen it, down here in your time slider, you can control what frames you're seeing with this bar here. You can lengthen and shorten with this bar. Or you can type it in right here. Maybe I only want 40 frames. Ta-da! Now I'm only seeing 40 frames, and your play blast is only going to play blast those 40 frames. All right, so now to get into just a few more animation specifics, because that's I think most everything as far as your basics for the viewport. I'm going to go into just a few things about animation. There's a few menus we can use that are going to be really useful to us. So an important one is going to be the graph editor. So Windows, Animation Editor, Graph Editor. Your graph editor is going to show exactly what is moving where. So I'm going to go ahead and select those hips. Now your hips, we can see it shows our translate X, Y, Z, rotate X, Y, Z, and you can hit F to focus and find what you're working on. Now if you'll notice, I only translated it in, I only rotate, did I rotate? Weird. Okay, the only one that's moving is the rotate X. So we can see what is happening. Wait a minute, I'm on the wrong one. Nope, it's right, never mind. Pay me no mind. We can actually adjust our position inside the graph editor. And if you'll notice, that is rotating our character. So, sorry, you can kind of see it down there. Let me make this smaller. Oh! Sorry, my computer just got really slow all of a sudden. Okay, so here's our graph editor. You can see what's happening. You can select all of these to see everything, or you can select just one at a time to see what's happening. Let's see. Translate X. This is what's happening. If you hit F, it's going to make things a little bit more clear for you. So here is what's happening in our translate here. So if you scroll on the time slider, you're going to get a line that pops up showing you exactly what's happening at that frame in the graph editor. Now let's say we want to slow this curve so that it's not so abrupt. So remember earlier when we set it to linear, let's say we're getting close to being done with our animation. Let's say we've in between, we break down, we're ready to clean everything up. We got to spend some time in the graph editor, select anything that you don't want to be linear anymore, and you can curve that off by selecting our A for tangent, auto tangents up here, spline tangents. Let's see. These all do different things. It's going to be a lot of experimentation here. But yeah, so you can use these to change your graph, and through a lot of trial and error, you'll notice what looks different. It's a lot of subtle differences, but as you'll notice, like now she kind of settles into her spot there rather than just lands in that last frame. Kind of smooths everything out. So let's say I want this to be splined as well, but I want to keep this linear. It's going to show each of those, because the computer creates its own in-betweens, it's going to show those in-betweens where they should be placed, because their in-betweens are going to follow this curve. So if the curve is more rounded, then your in-betweens are going to move kind of to follow that curve. I'm not explaining this very well, but you'll see the difference when you're animating. Trust me, it's subtle, but it's there, and it's very important. If you're animating constantly in linear, then your stuff's going to stop pretty abruptly, and there are going to be some points where you need to spline. You'll know what I mean once you get there. It's going to be kind of a case-by-case thing, so we'll each critique each other's shots, and that's when we'll really be able to help each other out on what things might need to be given some extra love in the graph editor. Now, another thing that I haven't personally used a whole lot, but you may find it useful, Windows Animation Editor, the dope sheet. The dope sheet is showing what's going on in your animation. Again, it looks a lot like the graph editor, except it's more of a timeline. So you can actually adjust this, you can translate keys, I am told. There you go. You can move your keys inside the dope sheet, and you can copy keys. It shows you what all's happening in here. This is going to be something you'll have to experiment with. I'm going to do my own experimenting with it as well, and we'll have a good time. It's going to be a lot of discovery for everyone. It's going to be a lot of fun. But as far as animation goes, I'm pretty sure that's about it that I have to tell you. Just number one keys, make sure that you are referencing everything. Do not animate on the rig. That is big no-no. Gonna make you to redo it. Reference in your rig, set your project folder, and everything should be fine. Make sure you're animating in linear to start. Some keys with animation that don't have to do with working in Maya. We are going to encourage everyone to shoot their own reference material. Reference material is super important to make sure that your animation holds some true-to-life aspects. If you're not referencing, then you're not going to be able to convey the right amount of emotion, or even the right emotion itself, or the proper motion of how your character is moving. Referencing really helps you get those keys where you need them, and make sure that you don't just film one reference and call it good. I'm going to be posting up a video about referencing your animation, so you can film yourself doing your reference, ask a friend to film your reference, but I'm going to post up a video on what's the best way to go about this, because I know we're not actors, we're awkward animators. We don't all act, but it's something we got to learn to do. So we're going to do it. Another important thing with animating, you probably know the basics, but something that animators use that's a little bit like rigging, but don't get scared, is constraints. Constraints are what we use to have a character hold an object so that the object doesn't slip out of their hands, and kind of lets you change a character's pivot point if you need them to do a certain action. I'm going to post up some videos that are actually on Andy's wiki. I'm going to send a link to those as well. So along with this video, I'd love if you could check out that reference video and the ones on the constraints, because I noticed as I was going through the animatic, we have a lot of characters holding objects. It's crazy. There are very few scenes where someone's not holding something. So you need to know what you're doing with constraints. If you have any questions about what's going on, feel free to message me, email me, text me, whatever way you want to get in contact with me. Feel free. I don't mind. I love answering questions. Jennifer is also our director. She'd be happy to answer questions as well. She's going to be working on, she's done all of our beautiful models, and she's going to be working on lighting as well. Yeah, so I look forward to seeing everybody, getting to know everybody better, and I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this. So thank you, everybody, and